Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is excellent to see you guys as always, and as you can see I'm a little bit giddy and I've got plenty of energy because I'm nice and rested back from my recent trip down south to the Iraq Veteran 8888 shoot, which is coincidentally the first event that I have been able to attend in the last year since, the country got shut down. It was in the South, and with the South comes its own set of issues, and I've got a question for you guys. To break the ice, so to speak. Can you think of anything that is more terrifying than the mosquitoes that come out of the blue water? I can, and I promise that I will absolutely cover that because it's going to be a little bit of a story, and we'll do that towards the end of the video. But for anybody who's new here, what I like to do when I get back from a trip like this is to do you guys a debrief video so you guys can see what I saw that I thought was worth talking about, and then y'all can give me my priority list by sounding off in the comment section down below so I know that I'm not misdirecting my efforts, so to speak. And this one is going to be a little bit special because I have saved what I believe may be the most impactful product that I have seen at a trade show to date. I'm going to save that one for last, so stay tuned. And without further eloquence.
Without further eloquence,
Y'all remember Stern Defense, right? There's the guys and gals that did the magwell inserts that go up inside of your lower receiver and basically allows you to change the caliber and magazine pattern for whatever it is that you want to run in your gun. Yeah, well, they came out with some pretty awesome looking binary component QD mounts. Currently, they're making them for the Holosun as they continue to get in components for the things, and hopefully, I was talking with them, they're going to move on to some other patterns after they get the first couple runs out there. You should be seeing those ones hitting the market in a relative short order, but it looks like they're fairly rugged and they do work with an interesting location for their QD lever. They look pretty rugged, but time will tell on that. AccuFire was there. They're relatively, I want to say, a company that I don't have a whole lot of experience with, but they had a pile of optics there. So many so that I didn't even bother going through them because it would have been like a year's worth of work to do so. AccuFire, if you want to do that, we can arrange that. Give me your digits. Well, that one's going to be gross in post. But anyway, the thing that I saw that was absolutely epic was they have bolt-on units that go on the front of your optic, and they convert it to either an IR, night vision, or a thermal optic. Basically, it's a digital unit that mounts in front of your scope, and then it allows you to see in that spectrum. Now, this is not the first time this has been done. However, I believe that this is the first time this has been done where it doesn't cost $10,000 to buy it. Considering that you can't even get a Trigicon price without like a JSOC green card or something like that, these things come in for a couple $1,000s, and I just thought that, hey, especially for a thermal, that's pretty spanking good. Are you guys interested in that?
Would you like to know more?
We've been seeing a whole bunch of stuff lately about import problems coming down the road. Well, it doesn't look to me like SDS Imports is slowing down at all because they had a whole pile of stuff that they were showcasing at this show. And there were two things that really caught my attention. The first one was their Bullpup semi-automatic shotgun. Now, we've seen multiple of this type or pattern of shotgun imported before, but they've done some creative stuff internally with this thing to really dial down that recoil impulse, and I tested it side by side with a brand that will remain unnamed at the range just to see if I was going nuts or not, and sure enough, it is a very, very soft shooter, and it is being specifically built to be able to handle all that bullcrap 12 gauge ammo. A lot of semi-automatic shotguns won't do the junky loads. They'll only shoot high brass, or they only shoot slugs and buckshot and stuff like that. No, we shot this stuff with the bulk loads at the range, and it was doing a pretty good job. I also did, of course, test it with real ammunition to make sure that that recoil reduction was not a function of the lower class loads. In addition to a whole bunch of other pistols that they had there, the one that really caught my eye was a Zagana Polywonder pistol that they're looking at. And this thing has after factory support because they basically said, hey, we're going to design this gun to have a factory solution on the market in the United States already. So if you're worried about being able to get sights, already exists for some other pistol on the market that's mainstream. You need magazines? Sucker takes 226 magazines. And I'm like, y'all have my attention. 18. Cans. We're going to be a little bit brief here because we know that YouTube's not really happy that we talk about this class of product. But there were multiple manufacturers at the show that were showing off products in this class, and to be honest, I'm a little bit jaded in the space of seeing a whole lot of different ways to do different things, and it's fairly repetitive at this point in time. However, I met the guy with the mind behind a line of cans from Armor Specialties, and they've got a little bit different take on the monocore titanium. Basically, when you see a monocore can, usually they've got a thing in the center, the core, monocore, done all up with all kinds of cute machining and all that sort of stuff to change the airflow and change the dynamics inside the thing, and that is stuffed inside of a tube. And basically, the tube becomes the sidewalls of the chambers. Well, this is a little bit different because they have some shields built into that monocore that take some of the pressure off of the sidewalls of the can. And that's important for a variety of reasons, but the one that I thought was most applicable was when you shoot a 22 can, for instance, it gets pretty carboned up. You basically have to clean that thing all the time or it's going to get pretty dicked up. If you shoot a monocore 22, it's going to get really dirty and you may not even be able to get it apart without some serious engineering. Basically, that doesn't happen with this sort of thing. All of the carbon is contained within inside those shields and within inside the core. So when you take the sucker apart, you basically screw the thing out, smack it on the table, and it comes apart. It looks to me like they're doing them in all the calibers that you want, basically. When I was walking through to check those things out, they were working closely with, surprisingly, Taurus, of all people. And I have to admit, they were doing some things that I had to take note of. So, what do you guys think? Should we give a 2021 invitation to Taurus for their not revolvers? They look kind of neat. And lastly, I give you bearing delayed blowback. This one's from Mean Arms, and you guys will recognize that name from the people that did the Endo Mag. That's the thing that you basically stuff up inside your PMag and it makes it shoot other bullets that it wasn't originally designed for. Fabulous concept, by the way. But looking at it, it's exactly what you think it is a new delayed blowback system based around ball bearing physics. And I have to admit, I shot this thing and the recoil reduction that they were showcasing at the range was something that I have not seen before. 9mm, which is the low-hanging fruit caliber. I know that, guys. And I know that we can't buy 9mm ammunition right now anyway. And that's why it is very important that they let us know that they are working on 5.56 and 300 blackout versions of this thing for somewhere around a fall 2021 release. So, what do you guys think? So I promised that we would rehash my escapades down south as far as what was scary, and here we go. So here's my story. I had to pee really, really bad. So I rolled into my hotel room and I grabbed my bags. I'm kind of like an all groceries in one trip kind of person, so I can't just walk in to my hotel room without bringing my stuff with me because that's just against my nature. Plus, I also had my night vision with me because I thought we were going to have a night shoot as well, so I had like several $1,000s worth of equipment. Definitely not leaving that in my truck unattended for some period of time. Anyway, walk into my hotel room and everything looked sort of fine to begin with. No major indicators when I walked into the lobby looked fine and all that sort of stuff. And then I went back to my room and air quality started to suffer. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten all day because I basically put the hammer down to drive down there. And so I went across the street for some rather questionable Mexican food. On my way to that restaurant, I saw an individual flex cuffed on the curb at the hotel room. And this by itself is not really a big deal. This is not an uncommon occurrence. I've seen lots of people flex cuffed on the curb. I have been flex cuffed on a curb or two. What was uncommon, in my guesstimation, was that both the cops that were there were holding rifles on the person. And that was my number one indicator, I think, that maybe this was not good. Hour and some change. And then I came back out, and lo and behold, there was a new person flex cuffed on a different part of the curb, different cops, and definitely different rifles. Perhaps the same flex cuffs. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't get close enough to look. We might have a problem here. Might be in a bad spot. But anyway, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go take a nap. Passed out on my bed, even though the pervasive smell of cannabis was really starting to strangle the whole wing of that hotel. Anyway, beside the point, I woke up about an hour and a half later because there was this fly that kept trying to get in my ear. Wipe the grease off my face, and I'll go meet my friends, and we'll see what's going on. Well, I went over to the sink, and this particular hotel had all red floors, and I noticed that there was a dark area over by the sink that wasn't, it was darker red than everything else. Of course, like an idiot, I put my hand in it to figure out what it was, and it came up, and I realized that what I was actually seeing was a pile of pubic hair that was so thick that it was blotting out the pigment of the carpet. This is definitely grounds for a new hotel room. And there's some ladies in front of me that were clearly also having a problem with their room, and they were asked to step aside while the lady helped me, and I'm like, excuse me, I would like a new room, please. I'm not satisfied with mine. And the lady behind the desk, she's like, well, what's wrong with it? And I'm like, well, she asked, why not? Well, ma'am, there is a pile of pubic hair in front of my sink thick enough that I could build a sandcastle out of it. Young lady next to me audibly gags. I'll just have my money back, please. And she started yelling obscenities and, things like that. And just then, a gentleman walks in and vomits all over the floor. You can't make this up. And my throat's starting to hurt because of the smoke inhalation, all that sort of stuff. I'm starting to feel pretty doped up. And I walk in and I notice that there's no toilet seat on the toilet, which was, a good one. That can be fixed though. So I went over to the bed because I was like, you know what? We're going to check this bed real quick. We've all seen those setups where there's no integral lighting. And basically everything's plugged in, right? And this one had one of those push button lamps on each end table next to the bed. So I went over and I pushed the button. And then from the corner of my eye I saw, oh, that's a big insect. I'm not entirely sure what species that was, but that was rather large. I think it's time that we start looking at a different property in the vicinity of this area. Perhaps not even in the vicinity of this area. Maybe somebody somewhere else. So anyway, I wanted to sit down in the chair so I could, take this because, I'm pretty smoked at this point in time. And I wanted to turn the light on next to it before I turned it on because I didn't want to sit in that chair without the light on. And it didn't work when I turned it on. So I walked across the room to sit at the desk, and lo and behold, I turned that light on, and there was some sliminess, it's the only way to put it, on the table. You know how you ever do one of these, right, on your sleeve, and it's dries, and then you've got that all over the counter. And there was so much hash dust that I could have rolled one right there without a problem. We're out of here. Found another hotel, and I saw it. I was like, $435 sold, sir. So, if you have ever experienced a terrible hotel stay, then please sound off in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your story as well, because I think mine was pretty good, I have to admit. That was by far one of the worst hotels that I have ever tried to see passed off before in my entire life. I don't know what they got going down there in that area of Georgia, but it was pretty scruffy. So hopefully here in the next couple weeks, we'll start seeing some cool stuff roll into the channel. And again, if you guys want to help out with the channel, all those things that you can touch down below definitely help out, as well as if you want to be a direct supporter of the VSO Gun Channel, then you can go over to our Patreon and subscribe star pages, and you should see some of those names on screen right now. The domestic tourist list is growing, boys and girls. And the first thing that I did was I got to that hotel room, dropped all of my clothes and all that sort of stuff off, bagged it up, put it in my suitcase so that it was like separated and wouldn't contaminate everything else, and then immediately went over and took a shower.